My name is Anne, and I have a 10-year-old transgender son named Luke. When he said that he wanted to dress like a boy, I was okay with that. I took him to stores. I bought boys' clothing. He wanted to wear a boys' bathing suit. He insisted from a very young age that he wasn't going to wear anything except boy colors. That's how it started. And then it persisted to just shopping in the boys' department. And I was okay with that. And he dressed like a boy at home, and he played sports, and he just played with all boys. He did boys' things, but the only thing that I held onto was his hair. That was the only thing remaining that made him look like a girl. Even when he had the long hair, sometimes he would wear hoodies in the middle of the summer, and he would zip them all the way up so you couldn't see his hair, because without being able to see his hair, he looked like a boy. And I had a hard time with cutting the hair, because that would have been completely letting go. I mean, there would have been nothing standing in the way of him being my son except that hair. And I just really had a hard time with that. I was afraid that, his friends weren't going to want to be his friends anymore, and, he wasn't going to be accepted like he was accepted as a tomboy. He kind of hovered around, not having any friendships with girls because he didn't have anything common with them. And the boys kind of let him play because he was a tomboy. But I didn't want people to become standoffish and uncomfortable around him when we decided to make that transition. So I kind of held off doing that. And one day, we were talking, and he said to me that, when he grew up, he was going to get married and have 4 kids just like me. And I said, that's great. And he said, but I'm going to be the dad. And I said, oh, great. And he said, and I want to be a boy, but I'm not going to marry a boy. I'm going to marry a girl. And I said, that's great. And I said, so, how come you've been telling me you're a boy since you were little? How come you never asked me to cut your hair? And he looked at me and he said, because you love my hair and I don't want to make you sad. And at that moment, I realized that, all these messages I was sending him it wasn't okay for him to be who he was, because he knew how hard it was going to be for me to cut his hair. And so that was telling him that I might not accept him and love him for who he was. So I still felt like it was going to be very hard for me to be the one to do the haircut. So I have a friend who's a hairdresser, and I asked her if she would do it for him. And she gladly said she would. I kind of stood behind, shaking, just watching those long curls falling off his head. But the smile on his face was priceless. I've never in my life seen him as happy as he was that day. My friend spiked his hair up to look like a mohawk, and he left there so happy. And we went out to lunch, and the person that seated us said to him, hey, buddy, I love your hair. And he just smiled from ear to ear, because here we were just 5 minutes out of the hair salon, and somebody's, already calling him buddy, high-fiving him, telling they loved his hair. And, I have really felt like that the haircut was it was liberating for him. Once that hair was gone and there was nothing that he had to hide anymore, I really saw his personality blossom, and I really felt like he was comfortable in his own skin, and he was so much happier, every day that we didn't have to spend combing that long hair that was always a rat's nest because he hated it. It's just been great. We went to the beach later on in the day, and he met some boys he was playing baseball with, and he told them that his name was Luke. He just reinvented himself from that day forward, and it was amazing. He told us after that, I want people to call me Luke now. Now everyone's going to know I'm a boy because of my hair short. And he just felt like he was immediately going to be accepted by his friends and his classmates. And I thought that he might not be really aware of how shocking the transformation was, because it was quite amazing. I mean, no one ever mistook him for a girl after that day. And after we got the haircut, we went to my parents' house, and my brother was there. And when we stepped out of the car, he was like, Anne, why did you let her cut her hair? Now she looks like a boy. And I said, well, that's the point. And he said, what do you mean that was the point? And I'm like, he is a boy. I kind of sat my whole family down and I said, you know, you guys all need to be on board with me. You can't like make mistakes. Well, I know you're going to make mistakes and say she and maybe use the wrong pronoun, but you need to correct yourself and you need to respect the decision that we've made. And my mother had a really hard time remembering to call him Luke. She called him Skylar all the time. And we were over at my brother's house at Thanksgiving, and it was so funny to me because, you know, my mother said Skylar, and my brother just looked at my mother and said, I don't understand how you are still making that mistake, because when I look at him, all I see is a guy. And it was just, that moment was just so great to me because I really thought of everybody in my family that my brother would have the hardest time with it.